Welcome to the Tuva project. Today we are releasing the Tuva Quality Measures Engine, which computes HEDIS measures using NCQA-certified logic. So what are HEDIS measures? HEDIS measures are standardized metrics used in the U.S. healthcare system to evaluate the quality of care delivered by health plans and providers. HEDIS stands for Healthcare Effectiveness Data and Information Set. It is one of the most widely used sets of healthcare performance measures in the United States. You can think of HEDIS as essentially a national benchmarking system for healthcare quality. And different types of organizations might use HEDIS measures for different purposes. For example, payers might use HEDIS measures to measure clinical quality, to compare performance across plans, to identify care gaps, etc. Providers might use HEDIS measures in the creation of value-based care contracts, to close care gaps, to build operational dashboards, etc. Regulators and purchasers might use HEDIS measures for other areas of interest like Medicare Advantage star ratings. HEDIS includes more than 80 measures across multiple domains. Here are some examples of measures that are included. There's measures related to preventative care. For example, there is a measure for childhood immunization status. There's a measure for breast cancer screening. There's a measure for colorectal cancer screening. There's measures related to chronic disease management like diabetes control or hypertension control. There's measures related to behavioral health, like antidepressant medication management or follow-up after mental health hospitalization. And there's measures related to medication management. These are just examples of some of the measures that are available. Computing any one of these measures involves complex logic that is often deployed across a very elaborate data pipeline. So for instance, here's an example of a screenshot that shows a subset of the transformations needed to compute one HEDIS measure. You can see the number of transformation steps is very large. There's a lot of dependencies among multiple nodes in a DAG. It's fairly complex, and the logic is very nuanced to calculate a single HEDIS measure. Often, these are sold and deployed by vendors as black box products that compute HEDIS measures with little to no visibility into the inner logic. And because of this, implementations may be slow and elaborate. It's very difficult usually to wire up your data into an engine that computes HEDIS measures. And once you do that, it's hard to troubleshoot and interpret results. When a measure looks off, it's hard to trace that back to a potential problem in data missingness or data quality in your raw data sources. And it's difficult to understand the logic of what's going on inside a black box to compute these measures. Our approach is to offer the Quality Measures Engine as a DBT package that computes HEDIS measures using NCQA-certified logic, and this DBT package runs automatically on top of the Tuva data model. So if you already have all your different data sources flowing into the Tuva data model, importing this DBT package and running the quality measures is absolutely turnkey and pretty fast to set up. This complete transparency to all the logic and the code to calculate all the HEDIS measures. And so this package comes with a fully documented DAG explaining how each HEDIS measure is computed from your data. For each HEDIS measure, we have a fully documented DAG that explains the steps necessary in the creation of the measure. Each HEDIS measure usually has a transformation pipeline to define the initial population. You can see how the initial population is defined for a measure. You can see how all the different exclusions are defined for a given measure. And you can see how the output table is created for a measure by bringing together the logic for defining the initial population, the logic for defining the numerator, taking the exclusions out, and coming up with a final output table. For any one of the nodes in this entire transformation pipeline, you can very easily see the SQL code that generates that particular step in the transformation pipeline, and so you have full visibility into how each measure is computed. Separately, each measure comes with an output table that has one row for every patient in your population. They have a person ID field, and then there's one column for multiple flags related to the calculation of the measure. So there's multiple flags. For example, in this measure, it's relevant to know if a patient has diabetes medication, if a patient meets the criteria for having diabetes with claims encounter data, or if the patient meets the criteria for having diabetes with pharmacy data, etc. All these flags are relevant for the calculation of the measure. We have flags for meeting the age requirement, for being in the initial population, for all the different exclusions that could be relevant in the calculation of the measure, and for knowing if the person meets the criteria for being in the numerator, in the denominator, etc. There is also a summary table associated with each HEDIS measure showing a full summary of all the different pieces of computation required in the calculation of the metric, and what percentage of your population meets each of these. You can see what percentage of your population is excluded, what percentage of your population meets each of the different exclusion criteria, what percentage of the population meets each of the different numerator criteria, what percentage of the population is in the numerator and the denominator, and what the output of the measure is. So these summary tables help you identify at a glance what could be wrong in the calculation of a measure, and then trace them back through the DAG to see exactly if you have missing data or if you have a data quality problem leading to any problem in the computation of the measure. So to summarize, our Tuva Quality Measures Engine is a DBT package that computes the HEDIS measures using NCQA-certified logic. This DBT package runs on top of the Tuva data model, and if you have all your data sources flowing into the Tuva data model, this runs in a turnkey way and gives complete transparency to all logic and code to calculate the HEDIS measures.